Halloween, a time where almost everyone does videos on horror games.
Was that the bite of 87?
Except me. I have something far scarier, in this case a highly immersive survival sim. Welcome to the apocalypse, dipshit. In Project Zomboid, your mission is to survive, and that is all. It is also very, very complex. Realistically, your first 5 or so characters are the equivalent of an all-you-can-eat buffet for the undead. After playing through the very helpful tutorial, you'll quickly realize that it only taught you the very, very basics of the game. How to loot, push zombies, and die horribly. I should clarify before we begin that there is no way to win this game. Project Zomboid is a sandbox with no main story or quests. You don't even get to discover how the zombie apocalypse started. Winning, in this case, isn't fulfilling a hero's journey. Winning is not getting turned into a fine red paste in the middle of the street. The game isn't about the ending, it's about the story that you make for yourself along the way. The entertainment doesn't come from triumphing over massive hordes of undead, it comes from finally digging up a worm to eat as your character is slowly starving to death. You'll realize very quickly that your character is not an action movie hero. Crawl through some broken glass and you're bleeding to death. Trip and lightly scrape your hand? Well, you better have disinfectant or you're a dead man. And try to take on more than 2 zombies at once, and congratulations! You're the 7 billionth visitor to the afterlife. Your prize is that you get to restart with nothing. Lucky for you, I'm here to teach you how to survive, for about 12 more minutes than you normally would. First, the basics. Your main method of survival is to roleplay as a schizophrenic kleptomaniac. You can tear clothes into bandages, and you should do this immediately. Food is commonly found in any populated area. Unfortunately, so is the population. Sneak your way into a grocery store, load up on non-perishable food, and then realize that you don't have a can opener, meaning that these peas just turned into paperweights. Disinfectant is useless, is what a moron would say. It weighs a lot, comes in very small amounts, and doesn't have many uses. Not picking some up is also a one-way ticket to a restart the second that you get mildly injured. Water is the basis of life, so it's probably good to have some with you at all times. Luckily, you have an infinite amount via your kitchen sink, until the water gets shut off about 2 weeks in. In the meantime, you should fill up as many bottles, pots, and G Fuel shaker cups as you can so that you don't become a dehydrated meat stick yourself. So, what would you do if the apocalypse began and you had 2 weeks of unlimited water and electricity? The correct answer is sit inside all day and watch TV. No, I'm not joking. Once you have a small stockpile of resources like food, water containers, and medical supplies, the best use of your electricity is gaining knowledge. Find some books. Reading skill books allows you to accelerate your XP gains for those skills. Then, tune into the Life and Living channel on your television and get to work. Watching cooking or carpentry shows on them will quickly level up those skills. To avoid getting fat, exercise when you run out of reading materials. Eventually, the channels will stop airing, meaning that you need to find some VHS tapes to continue your learning process. But by the time that happens, you'll probably need to go on another looting run anyway. Everything in Zomboid has an opportunity cost. The day is only so long, and zombies apparently operate with sonar, meaning that you should almost always try to loot while there's light outside. However, you can't make just one trip out and come back with a grocery store in your pockets. You can only carry so much. The amount is determined by your strength and how close you are to starving to death. Carry too much and you'll injure yourself. Carry too little and you'll need to make too many trips. The way to fix this issue? Bags. Containers in Project Zomboid have a neat feature called weight reduction. If you try to carry 10 cans of chili in your pockets, you'll probably kill yourself. But carry those cans in your backpack and it's not a problem. Depending on where you equip your bag, such as your back or hands, you can carry different amounts. Acquiring a good backpack early can mean the difference between life and death. So can finding a base. A medium-sized house with few windows and 2 doors makes an ideal place to set up. Sheets can be placed over whatever windows are in your main areas in order to prevent the neighbors from realizing you've moved in. Zombies aren't really that scary. They're not super strong if you fight them one-on-one, and you're faster than them unless you're literally bleeding out. But they're always there, waiting for you to slip up. If you get too greedy or try to do something too fast, they're waiting right there to bite you in the ass. Therefore, you will, inevitably, need to fight at some point. The twist? This isn't the zombie apocalypse, this is just what Kentucky is like. In combat, you have two main moves, shove and bonk. Shoving tires you out quickly and deals no damage, but has a high chance to knock your opponent to the floor. Then, if you stand on their chest, the enemy is completely disabled. The second you move, they'll attempt to stand back up. However, while you're standing on someone, your shove becomes a curb stomp. This will very effectively smash your opponent's skull in. You can also bonk them while they're down, but this will use your weapon's durability, so if you have the opportunity, stepping on them is usually more effective. Bonking an enemy while they're standing deals slight damage and has a small chance to knock an enemy down. However, every hit uses some weapon durability, so your typical combat will be a shoving contest until you can stomp on their head. Also, you'll probably need to protect yourself. Different clothes grant different amounts of protection to different parts of your body. If you're naked, you're very likely to get injured at the slightest whack from your adversaries. This is obviously bad since, zombies? So, put some clothes on. Sure, it may be the middle of July in rural America, meaning stepping outside is the equivalent of shoving your body into an oven, but a leather jacket and hoodie sure will protect your arms. Heavier clothing usually protects more of the body, but also weighs you down, lowering your movement speed. This makes clothing a delicate balancing act between being highly protected and being mobile. One thing you'll realize rather quickly is that combat fucking sucks. This is not an accident. Fighting one enemy is tiring, time-consuming, and incredibly dangerous. Fighting two enemies is extremely tiring, very difficult, and loud, meaning that you could attract unwanted attention. Fighting three enemies is a death sentence. You are, after all, just a regular person, so it's highly recommended that if you have more than two enemies approaching you, you should take a page out of Sun Tzu's Art of War, which I haven't read, but I'm sure that it says something about running the fuck away in there somewhere. Or, alternatively, discharge a firearm into the crowd. Guns in Project Zomboid are somewhat rare, have limited ammo, and are very likely to get you killed. They kill in one hit, but your accuracy is reduced when you're scared, meaning that the more enemies are around, the less likely you are to hit them. They are also very loud. Never, ever use a gun unless you're in a life or death situation, because when you fire, you'll certainly be put into one. Sound is very important in this game. Climbing over a fence may draw in some nearby locals, but setting off a burglar alarm or firing a gun will instantly draw every zombie in the state to your location. It is also very important to listen. If you haven't noticed by now, your view is restricted to a small cone on the screen, meaning anything moving behind you can sneak up very easily. Thankfully, you can hear zombies around corners, banging on doors and windows, and sneaking up on you. Occasionally, gunshots can be heard around the map, even in single player. While this may scare the shit out of you the first time, there are no enemy humans in single player. However, this sound will draw zombies across the map, forcing you to maneuver around newly formed hordes and opening up some new areas. It's a cool in-game way to force you to adapt and move. Zombies will also remember your location. If you make a noise, they'll move towards it, and if they see you, they'll try to chase. If you break line of sight with them, like running into a building or a forest, they'll most likely be waiting for you whenever you come back later. After all, zombies don't need to find new resources like you. Finally, there is one sound that you definitely don't want to hear: the helicopter. Once per game between days 6 and 9, nice, a helicopter will fly overhead. If it sees you, it will follow you around for a day or two, drawing in hordes of zombies to your location. My professional advice? Stay inside. This is early enough that the electricity should still be on, so use this time to watch some more TV. If you're really ballsy, you can use this event to lure zombies away from places in town that you want to loot by letting the helicopter see you and then running far away from that area, creating a massive train of zombies. I don't really recommend this, as it's quite dangerous, but hey, everything's worth trying at least once. Eventually, however, you'll realize that the place you've been living at fucking sucks. Similar to real life, home doesn't feel like home when the shadow people keep walking past your window. On a related note, There has been movement outside my house at 2 a.m. every day for the last 3 weeks. Don't think that I haven't noticed. Naturally, the solution is simple. Take yourself off the grid, live off the land. Throw away your phone, and they can't find you. Become invisible. But you've probably stockpiled a metric ton of supplies since you moved in. How am I supposed to move my 10 cans of chili to a new location miles away? My recommendation? Grand Theft Auto. Acquire a vehicle. Whether that's through hot wiring or acquiring the car key from one of the locals, you can now enter the vehicle, but that doesn't mean that it'll start. Cars can have a lot wrong with them. The engine may be broken, the battery could be dead, the wheels could be popped, or the car could be out of gas. This can be remedied in a variety of ways, usually involving gutting another broken car. Once you've acquired your escape vehicle, load up that trunk and move to the countryside. I highly recommend an area nearby water, as you can fish for food and somewhere where you can plant seeds. The woods will block line of sight, meaning once you've cleared out the area, you're good for a while. Next up, sleep mechanics. Oh yeah, we're getting to the exciting stuff now. Your character can't sleep if they've slept recently or are in too much pain. Continue without sleep for too long and you'll deal significantly less damage and your vision range will be reduced. If you're tired enough, you can sleep anywhere, but you don't really want to. Just like in real life, falling asleep in a back alley with the local crackhead nearby is generally a very bad idea. Instead, try to sleep on an actual bed. You can sleep in chairs and on sofas, but the rest is generally worse and you have a chance of waking up with a sore neck. While sleeping, you're very vulnerable, so make sure to close nearby windows and doors since zombies banging on them can wake you up. Interestingly, you can also have nightmares in this game, where your character wakes up with a heartbeat pounding in your ears. This will probably scare the shit out of you the first time it happens, but it's not much more than an annoyance. The best part of sleeping is that time fast forwards, meaning that you can skip most of the night and heal faster. Speaking of healing, let's talk health system. I mentioned earlier that wounds need to be disinfected, but I didn't go in depth. In Zomboid, each part of you can be damaged separately, which is why clothing is so important. In the case you're scratched or lightly wounded, you usually just need to bandage it to prevent infection. In the case it's a laceration, disinfect it and keep it covered. The real issue is deep wounds and the time limit on wounds. Any wound that bleeds will steadily drain your health if unbandaged or infected, and this can easily kill you in bad situations. If a wound is deep enough, you may need a needle and thread to stitch yourself up, and from there, you can just play the waiting game until you're healed. Wounds accumulate quickly and reduce your movement speed and damage, so if you take a hit, it's smart to stay out of the fight for a while. However, not doing things for long periods of time will increase your boredom. Stay bored too long and you'll become depressed. Being in pain also speeds up this process. However, unlike real life, it's really easy to stop being depressed. Reading books, watching TV, and eating well-cooked food will reduce your sadness and boredom. Honestly, it's impressive to see a game go this in-depth. Even in the way of survival sims, the amount of detail is kind of staggering, especially the realistic weight of objects. Could you carry 10 cans of chili in your pockets without injuring yourself? Your character needs to be the right temperature, carry the right weight, eat, sleep, and even clean themselves. The only thing that you really don't need to do is shit, which, if you've ascended like I have, is completely accurate to real life. It's so accurate, in fact, that creating a balanced diet for yourself has benefits. Food groups and nutrients are actively factored into your character's weight and muscle gain, meaning that if you want to get ripped, you need to eat like you want to get ripped. Add pure protein to all of your meals. Only eat once you become incredibly hungry and work out for 4 hours a day. Then proceed to get your throat ripped out after taking 10 steps outside. If you're feeling a bit spicy, go ahead and visit the wiki to see how your diet affects your character's weight gain. Personally, I saw a single math equation and my brain immediately turned off as a defense mechanism. Oh, and I guess that I should probably mention the zombie virus. You're not immune to it. There's a chance of being zombified when hit by a zombie. A scratch only has a small chance of infection, whereas a bite has a 100% chance of ending your run. You're not told when you're infected, but your temperature will rapidly rise, you'll develop intense paranoia, and you'll feel nauseous, become sick, and eventually die. There is no way to cure or prevent this. This will end your run, but this doesn't mean that it has to be the end of the game. You have about a week after initial infection before your death, so you better make it count. Drop your resources, stop eating and drinking, and wait for death. After your character dies, you have the option to continue that save. You can create a new character and continue to live in the same world where you were just torn to pieces. This means that everything you've looted, eaten, and used isn't going to come back. You'll lose your skills as well, but in exchange you can find your old base, as well as your zombified self, allowing you to reclaim your stockpiled resources and continue living as your spiritual predecessor did. So, let's talk about you. While making your character, you get to choose a few things. First, your spawn location. The map is connected no matter where you spawn, but you can choose between less or more populated areas to begin at. I highly recommend Riverside as it's my personal favorite. The population is somewhere in the middle. You'll begin with a fair amount of zombies around you, but the houses are ripe with canned goods. The bathrooms have a variety of medical supplies, and there's a school nearby. Just like in real life, the school barely matters. However, there are two valuable rooms inside. One, the nurse's office. A free variety of guaranteed medical supplies is pretty sweet. And two, the Library of Alexandria. The library holds a massive amount of books for a variety of levels, meaning that those skills will become the most free shit that I have ever seen. Next, you get to choose some traits and occupations. This operates on a point system, where positive traits cost a certain point value based on how good they are, and negative traits give you some back. These can vary quite a lot. You can read a little bit faster or slower, drive a bit slow, look a little further, or use completely game-changing traits like Burglar, which allows you to start with high sneak, hotwire vehicles, and become more likely to break through windows. There is also a negative flip side of this, where you can choose a trait like Deaf, which completely handicaps your character, drastically raising the difficulty because of a lack of audio cues. Of course, my friend Austin took this trait on his first character after the tutorial because he's been unfortunately diagnosed with terminal big dick energy. However, you're not Austin, so I don't recommend taking this perk ever. The best negative traits are Sunday Driver, because driving 15 miles an hour is still about triple the average zombie's move speed, and Disorganized, because I'll simply put my shit on the floor. In contrast, the best positive trait is Lucky. This absolute exploit of a perk increases your chances of finding rare loot and decreases the chances of failing a skill check like repairing. It's been nerfed. It hasn't been enough, because it's still broken. Exploit this for as long as you can. And now you know exactly what time it is. Until I speak on this game's sound design, my bones will continue to ache, so here we go. In-game sound effects are fucking yummy. Everything from walking through broken glass, to bashing a citizen's head in with a lumber axe is absolutely amazing. Soup boiling. Car doors opening. Fucking pages turning. Animals call out when you're in the woods, and they might even get added next update. The sound design is absolutely fantastic, except the level up sound. I don't know who designed this shit, but I'm pretty sure it's specifically engineered to only play as loudly as possible while you're trying to quietly sneak by a large horde and scare the piss out of you. Fuck this sound. The music is absolutely fantastic. A mix of dramatic singing, haunting strings, and loud bass drums create everything from a horrifying chase track to a working man's wet dream. It's also adaptive, becoming more or less intense depending on how much danger you're in, and is honestly great. Now, I know that we're pretty late into the video, but there's still more. Tired of reliving the same old zombie virus? Introducing alternate game modes. There's a more challenging mode, an easier mode, and a creative mode, but there's also challenges. There's a wave defense mode, an endless storm, and a mode where you have one day until an absurdly large number of zombies show up. However, by far the most infamous Project Zomboid challenge is the CDDA game mode. Inspired by the game Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead, another zombie survival game, it is probably the worst imaginable start. You're drunk, bleeding to death, sick, cold, starving, defenseless, naked, and your house recently decided to take up smoking. If you want to make the game nearly impossible to begin, then have fun. Not only do you have these to choose from, there's also multiplayer. I haven't touched it because this game already gave me brain damage, and I can only imagine how many chromosomes I'll lose if I play with my friends. I'm sure that I'll try it soon. Overall, Project Zomboid has become one of my favorite survival games, and one of my favorite games ever. It's been out for more than 10 years, and it's still in early access. This just goes to show you how dedicated the developers are to creating the perfect zombie experience. New updates come out about 3 times a month, with a major animal update coming soon after this video. It's probably the only game that can make wandering around in an empty field for 2 hours actually fun, and you can pick it up on Steam for $20. The music's adaptive, the gameplay's proactive, my ass is attractive, that gas is extractive, and my heart is inactive. I'd give Project Zomboid a something doesn't feel right out of a sudden desire to eat people. Just a heads up, I probably won't upload again until late November, since that's when my Pokemon Scarlet and Violet video should be done. Hope that you all enjoyed, thank you for 1,000 subscribers, and as always, I'll see you soon.